There are some times when you will be given a ratio and you'll see that it has to be reduced. The easiest way to reduce a ratio is to put it into fraction form. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it into fraction form, and then we're going to divide by a fractional 1. I know that 8 and 10 can both be divided by 2, so I'm going to be dividing by 2 over 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4, 10 divided by 2 is 5. There's my reduced, this is the simplified ratio. There are some times when you'll be asked to find 3 equivalent ratios. When you're asked to find 3 equivalent ratios, it can be easy if you use a box, a ratio box. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to find 3 different ways to create an equivalent ratio. I know that I can divide by 2, and here's how I'm showing my work. So when I divide both by 2, that looks like addition, divide, I'm going to get 4 over 5. The same thing as up here, it just looks a little bit different. But I can't reduce anymore. So now I'm going to have to make it bigger. To make it bigger, I'm simply going to multiply, and I'll take by 2 again. 8 times 2, 16, 10 times 2, 20. And even though it's not simplified, they're asking for 3 equivalent ratios. An equivalent means it looks different, but means the same thing. It's like painting a car a different color. It's the same car, same motor, everything's the same underneath, but the car looks a little bit different. Now we need to find a third one, so I'm going to take times 3, and notice I'm doing the same thing on both sides. Whatever I do to the top, I have to do to the bottom. Otherwise, I'm going to change this ratio, and then it won't be equivalent. It will mean something else. 8 times 3 is 24. 10 times 3 is 30. And I have 3 equivalent ratios right there in that little box. Let's take a look at another ratio. Let's take a look at 15 to 10. Now when I have 15 to 10, I'm going to put it in fraction form so it's easier to simplify, because you should always have your ratios as simplified as possible unless you're asked to find more than one equivalent ratio. So I'm going to, I notice that 15 and 10 can both be divided by 5 over 5. 15 divided by 5 is 3. 10 divided by 5 is 2. This is the simplified ratio. If this was a fraction, and just a fraction, not in fraction form, we would have to turn this into a mixed number. But because this is a ratio, we do not turn it into a mixed number, because this is not a ratio. This is just a regular mixed number. We don't want that right now. We can also use the boxes to create equivalent ratios. And rather than doing the dividing on this, I'm not quite sure. Let's pretend that you don't know that you can divide by 5 over 5. I'm going to do the simplest thing possible to create 3 equivalent ratios. I'm going to multiply by 2, by 3, and by 4. And you can use any numbers you want to multiply with, but if you use simpler numbers, chances are you'll get the right answer. Now, showing my work like this, I'm not finished showing my work. You also have to show that you're doing the same thing on the bottom. Times 2, times 3, times 4. And sometimes I'll do the work ahead of time so that I know what I'm going to multiply by. 15 times 2 is 30. 10 times 2 is 20. 15 times 3, well, 15 times 2 is 30, so 30 plus 15 is going to be 45. 10 times 3, 30. 15 times 4, I'm going to add another 15 onto here. It's going to be 60. 10 times 4 is 40. And there you have 3 equivalent ratios for 15 over 10.